Good evening. Welcome to another Talking Hope. After a very freezing week that we experienced last week all over the United Kingdom. As usual, we have tonight amazing co-presenters with me. We have Dan, who is always, here with us doing his own thing with the young people. And then we have Her Royal Majesty, Rachel Jordan-Wolf. Well, she has a competition tonight. You'll soon find out that she has a very, very, very tough competition tonight. And then, of course, our one and only Papi Roy. Roy, what's been going on with the magazine?
Hey, this is amazing. Catherine Butcher, we got some amazing stories. This is a great Easter magazine for you to distribute within your community, to link. So order, Hope for All. It's the thing for Easter. It's got some amazing articles. It covers the Wellbeing course we're going to be picking up tonight. It's got a bit on Justin Bieber. It's got a bit on Reasons for Hope.
Has it got me inside the magazine? Am I there?
No, it hasn't got you, Yemi.
Never mind, Yemi. Next time. One of these times you're going to make Yemi.
Exactly, Yemi. There are magazines that don't have you in them. I know there's not many, but there's a few magazines that don't have you in them.
Rachel, what's happening with the government and the lockdown and the Mr. Boris announcement?
Well, I think the date is the 21st of June, everybody. That's the ultimate date, is the 21st of June. And what was it? 4 stages on the way back, but that's the one I'm remembering. It looks to me like at least summer holidays, people. We can book our summer holidays.
2 days before my birthday, on the 23rd.
What can I say? Wow. They must have known. But I am looking forward to coffee on a bench, which is, what is that, 2 weeks? 2 weeks time. So they're my two benchmarks. 2 weeks time, coffee on a bench, 21st of June.
But if you're a parent, you can see homeschooling coming to an end.
Yeah. Wow, that's good for most parents.
Yeah, on the 8th of March.
That is the real big thing. I can't wait. I'm so excited that from May, I will start globetrotting again. Oh my God. I've been locked down for too long.
But you've still been globetrotting from your room.
I'm globetrotting to every part in the world, but I need to globetrot physically now, which will be good. Hey, great. Tonight we have interesting guests. I'm coming to you, Dan. Tonight we have interesting guests with us. And our first guest, like I said, a great competition to our own Rachel Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Kate Middleton. Hi, Kate. How are you? This is our own Kate Middleton.
Good evening.
This is our own Hope Kate Middleton. Kate, how are you doing tonight?
I am very good, thank you. Excellent. I am one of those parents, so we are counting down from now. I'm thinking of putting a chart on the wall.
Great.
Oh, wow.
It's not long.
My kids seem a lot less excited about it than me, I must say, about going back to school. But
I must say, must be something very interesting, Kate, interestingly, you are a psychologist and then a church leader, whichever way, a church leader and a psychologist and a church leader. What does that mean? What do you do? That's
right. Well, actually, extra confusingly, I started out as a medic. I actually trained as a medical student first, but really felt this sense of God calling me to work with people in this whole area of mental and emotional well-being. So I left medicine and retrained as a psychologist. And then to my utter surprise, God ended up calling me into the church. And I've been working in church leadership now for nearly 2 decades. And so really just encouraging and engaging both the local church that I've been working in, but also nationally as part of the work of the Mind and Soul Foundation, encouraging churches just to engage with this whole area, whether it's in community work, youth work, teaching and preaching, whatever it is they're doing, thinking, how do we get the best out of our minds? How do we manage life's challenging times and really thrive in life?
So how do you thrive? How do you really thrive in this 21st century pandemic, suffocated life and church and ministry?
Yeah, well, it has been really tough, hasn't it? And it continues to be really tough. And actually, things, let's pray that things do continue to move forwards in a positive way. But it's been really hard for people. And we've been supporting and connecting with people from so many different backgrounds throughout the pandemic and trying to help them understand what's happening, understanding why it's so difficult, the impact that pandemic has had, both specifically on our minds, but also things like loss of control, loss of rhythm and routine, and why that's raised our stress level. And then thinking really practically, in a season where you can't change your context, you cannot solve global pandemic. So how do you sustain yourself and those you love through it? How do you keep your head above water? And can you even thrive in these difficult times? So really just speaking into that and giving good practical advice to keep people going.
Brilliant.
That's great. And go on.
I was going to say, you've been part of our Wellbeing journey, which is a series of 8 sessions to help people one of the big things is getting everyone talking, getting everyone talking about their wellbeing. I think I've been running it with a group here, and I know that you know of a church that's running it near you with quite a few groups. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were so thrilled to hear about the Wellbeing journey, and several of us and some of our partners and friends and colleagues at the Mind and Soul Foundation were able to be involved with it too. And you're right, because there's such a need to process, as well as the immediate emotions of this moment. So much of pandemic life has challenged some of the foundations we live on, and it's changed our lives. So giving people an opportunity to run through, how has this affected me? What am I actually feeling? In a short-term crisis, we react very instinctively, kind of head down. We don't think, because you're going to process it and feel it and deal with it all later. But this has been going on nearly a year now. And so people are needing to figure out why they're feeling what they're feeling and understand it and think about what changes do I need to make? How do I need to improve my health and all these different parts of wellbeing? So we were so thrilled to hear about the course. And yeah, for me, locally, to the church that I've been working with locally for this, say, nearly 2 decades, we are running the course, and it's been really popular in the community, and people from all kinds of backgrounds, because I think it's just speaking into a need. I mean, it's so amazingly timely, and I think we so strongly just saw God all over it. Who would have known that it would actually come out in a third lockdown? But the timing has been absolutely amazing. So we just see God's provision in that, really.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you've also been using the youth wellbeing, I believe, at the church as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, both at the local church, and also one of the things that I was able to be involved with through the pandemic was launching an online space that's specifically for young people and their well-being, speaking into the same topics. And we're looking to run the Wellbeing journey online with groups of young people. We're just piloting it with a small group first, but we're hoping to be able to throw it out nationally and just invite young people wherever they are, if they're not in touch with a local church, that they can come and join with another bunch of young people with us and go through the course that way.
Tell us a bit more about that website. It's Headstrong, isn't it? And kind of how has that been helping young people in the pandemic, particularly in a dynamic that maybe you was were thrown into with the pandemic? But yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, so again, it's another situation where God has just gone ahead and laid down a path for something which is amazing, because we've been thinking and praying about creating an online space for young people that did a similar sort of thing to what we aimed to have a vision for with adults at the Mind and Soul Foundation, just talking all things mental well-being. So not just illness, but that wider scope of how do you respond to life's challenges? How do you become resilient? How do you look after your well-being and really experience the best that life has to offer? And for young people in particular, because we know they struggle so much with issues around emotional and mental well-being, and we're seeing rates of illness rising. And then, of course, we hit pandemic, and the concerns for young people's well-being went up even more. And we were seeing and hearing from young people who were so isolated and were struggling. So the vision, which was then enabled by some very generous donations, was to equip them, to give them good practical teaching, again, to help them understand what's going on, why are they feeling what they are, but also really importantly, give them the tools and skills and practical advice to help them get through, and hopefully to prevent illness as well.
So there's amazing emotional and mental correction that, particularly for the young people, because this apparently they are the most affected with all these pandemic, their emotion and their emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah, it's been a huge challenge for young people, and particularly those who are at the older end of the teenage years, who've lost key transition moments. They're dealing with massive amounts of uncertainty. Even now, even tonight, you know, I'm hearing from young people saying, "But what about exams? What about universities?" You know, there's so many questions in their minds, and so many of them feel like life is on hold. But most of all, what they're hearing again and again is just a barrage of negativity being spoken over them. You know, they're calling them generation lost, generation COVID. And we wanted to speak a more positive message, because we don't believe this generation is lost. We believe that God is speaking a better story over them. And we want them to know why there is hope, why there's possibility, why there's potential in the amazing people that God has created them to be.
And then this weekend is Evangelism weekend, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this weekend is the Youth Evangelism Conference. This is the workbook that people get if they book in. They get like a whole package. It's for youth workers. We've been running it for a number of years in partnership with Youth for Christ, a bunch of other great organizations, equipping youth workers. And it's obviously was gathered, well, not obviously, but like most events, we were in Cambridge and Manchester, but this year we're just online this Saturday. So people can book in for that through the yec.uk. It's just £10. You get a whole pack in the post, or you can book in your whole team for like you for a tenner, and like each member of your team for like £5. So it's really great. We've got some great communicators, great content. We've got some content around wellbeing as well, which is great. But to help youth workers really think missionally in this season, how do we move forward now? And not to support young people, but not just those that are in the church circle, but those that are outside that as well in the community, and how do we best do that? So we're really excited for that, and that's this weekend. Still time to book on, so it's good.
Right.
So how did they book on? How did they book? What did
if you got the yec.uk, so I'm sure that link will appear as I'm saying it.
YFC.uk.
No, the yec.uk.
Okay, the YEC.uk.
Yeah, it's good.
Youth Evangelism something, isn't it?
Youth Evangelism Conference. That's what it is. That's what it is.
YEC.com and things like that. Okay. Rachel, do you want to say something?
I just want to, Kate, if there was a top tip that you wanted to give us, what would it be? A top tip about, you know, we've got, although we've got some more freedom, we've still got a bit of a way to go. What would you be saying to people? What would be your top tip?
I think I would want to talk about overwhelm. You know, I think so many people are so anxious right now, obviously about the uncertainty and the wider situation, but most of all about how they are acting and reacting. You know, people are saying to me like, why am I so tired? What is wrong with me? Why do I keep losing it? And I think we have to recognize this has been a really tough season. And so many of us are just in that overwhelm space where literally your brain is just struggling because it's really tired. And that will reboot when things calm down. Hopefully we have that summer and we get some holiday and the coffees that we're all planning. But right now, sometimes we just need to fight biology with biology. You know, if you're stressed out and overwhelmed, the key to that, rather than worrying and overthinking and panicking about, is this some basic psychological flaw, is to think, actually, do I need to relax? Do I need to take some time out? Do I need to take a moment to reconnect with God and just change my perspective for a moment and remember that there is something bigger and better going on here? And so I think sometimes we need to go really back down to basics like that and just think, what are the things we need to build into our routines? And even in those moments when you are like, I am about to completely lose it, do you just need to go and sit on the back step with a cup of tea, or go for a little walk, or just take a moment, listen to a worship song, whatever just drops that stress level. Don't overcome.
Right. I wonder if you could summarize it as being, I mean, there's a bit of be kind to yourself, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
Be kind. Be kind.
It's such a precious season, isn't it? People are juggling so many things and pulling across so much.
Trying to work from home, trying to look after the kids, trying to be a good wife, trying to, do exercise, trying to cook and clean, especially for women, and not easy for men as well. But you know what? June 12 is coming. And then we're all liberated. We can all go out. We can all have a cup of coffee. We can all have fun together. I cannot thank you enough, Princess Kate Middleton, for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
I hope you continue to be princess every day, every night, and every evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. No worries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate.
God bless you.
Thanks, Kate. Bless you.
Thanks for having you. Wow, that was a great one. After having the princess, now we have a gentleman from down Cornwall. maybe he is the Duke of Cornwall. Drew Cox. How are you?
Full titles, Drew. It's all right. It's just Yemi Singh. I mean, we all get a great title by the end of it.
I'm honoured. We'll go with whatever's going tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. You're Duke tonight. Don't tell anybody. Well, after this program, just remove it that you're no more the Duke. So, Drew, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to in Cornwall. What's been going on down there?
Well, I'm a pastor of a little Pentecostal church here down in North Cornwall, a town called Weybridge. And like most folks, during about a year, just under a year ago now, we're thrown into that kind of chaos at the start of the pandemic. So I was sat in this office actually, as this was all kind of just like, I suppose, starting to play out. And I was just thinking, wow, I'm a bit of a confession time, I suppose. I was waiting for a phone call from somebody from town. So I was waiting for a phone call thinking, well, why didn't anybody phone me? You know what I mean? We should be doing something at this point in time. Nobody's picked up the phone. None of the the core kind of agencies across the town had kind of reached out. And I was just kind of I was like, oh, the church has been forgotten again, isn't it? The church has been missed off the list of kind of like the strategy for kind of responding to this within our town and our community. And you know, when you just get those little nudges from the Holy Spirit, I just got that little prompting and that little nudge, and just that, actually, Drew, it needs to be you that needs to pick up the phone. And I need to reach out to some of these people. So I just kind of reached out to a few kind of key players initially across the life of our town, some folks down at voluntary sector organisation called Concern Weybridge and our food bank. And I said, hey, look, we need to be responding to this. What's the plan? And they were like, I don't know. They were kind of thinking some of the same sort of things as us. So I kind of reached out to our Cornwall councillor, some folks from education, some from folks from health, and two days later we were sat in our meeting room just down here with a room full of people just wanting to come together to respond to the pandemic. And there's no rule book written on this. Just that there's no set of guidelines that you kind of pull out and go, okay, I'm going to turn to P now for pandemic and actually dig out what we're meant to doing. So it was probably one of the most chaotic kind of few meetings that I kind of have chaired, really, and just trying to pull a response team together for that.
But in the midst of that, you've done amazing stuff. Part of that is the driving service and a couple of edgy stuff that you've done. Tell us about some of those things that you've done, those edgy stuff that has been helpful during this pandemic for the churches.
So what we did is we just brought everything together. And I just think one of the stories of hope that comes from this is actually a lot of those people that sat around the table for some of those meetings would never sit around the table together. So we have all these kind of different agencies all coming together and say, we want to do something together. And the beautiful thing how God orchestrated it was the church that was leading. It was the bride of Christ that was leading on this. And I'm finding myself in meetings and people just in the midst of that chaos, the church office phone just off the hook, going, Drew, what do I do next? What do I do? I've done that. Looking for direction, looking for steering. And it was just this beautiful moment. I had been the assistant pastor of this church for about 6 years, and I took over. So I was probably just in my first 6 months of leading the church here. And my good friend Meshach Manhana that leads Riverside Church up in Southampton. He's our regional guy for Assemblies of God, and he had this word for me, and he said, Drew, I'm going to elevate you to the bridge. So obviously our town is called Weybridge, but he said it's going to be a bridge like you get on a ship. And you're going to help steer and you're going to help lead out in this context. It was just beautiful to see how kind of God kind of orchestrated that. So we did this team kind of did all those normal things, I suppose, like there was through some of those voluntary sector groups. It was sort of shopping for people, Meals on Wheels, the advice, the support, the prescriptions, the running to hospital, all those very tangible, all those very practical things. But what it did is I kind of just got left with this social media platform, really, to be updating our town and our community and what's going on, how we're responding and what they need to do and that kind of thing. And it was just like God had given me a microphone into the town just to speak. and to share stories of hope. So I was sharing stuff about all the practical things that were going on, but all the kind of, and just being able to share other stuff in regards to the good news of the gospel as well. So going on to your other question, Yemi, when it were kind of like started to all kind of we took a breath, didn't we, I suppose, in the summer, and we're like, oh, this is, we hooked up with the guys up at Creation Fest, and great relationship with Sarah and the team there, and we just said, wouldn't it be great if we could all come together? Our churches have been shut, and do a drive-in service. Matt, who Roy knows, down at Newquay, had done the drive-in service a few weeks before, and that had made the national press. So we were kind of already planning ours. We did ours at the Royal Cornwall Showground. So we had like over 100 cars come in, and folks from the community. So we had our Cornwall councillors there, heads of schools there, education, health, our mayor. And what we did is we shared stories of hope, what the food bank have been doing. We shared stories. What we did is we celebrated just what we call community heroes. So the lady that had been sewing hundreds and hundreds of masks to give out to people for free, we got her up front and we gave her a certificate. The folks that have been delivering the food, we got them up, we gave them a certificate. The lady that had been managing the local kind of Facebook group and all the that, we gave them a certificate. It was covered by BBC Spotlight and BBC Radio Cornwall. So it was just a real great, acknowledging that this thing was not over, but actually we were able to just convey stories of hope and of people just stepping out within the community. And then Sarah, just as Sarah does, just communicated this beautiful gospel message all in around hope with a
amazing.
There was so many people there, and the hits that we got kind of on social media were just brilliant from that. I think some of the great stuff that's coming out of it is now that group still operates. We still meet on a monthly basis. Now it was weekly at one point in time, but just saying, okay, what are the needs of our town now? So off the back of the pandemic, we want to continue to still meet, and we're addressing how we're going to do youth work joined up. So some of these things, this is not just strictly church stuff. There's just loads of kingdom stuff in this.
Drew, who are some of the other partners? So you've got other churches, but you've got, tell us a bit more about some of the other partners. So
we've got heads. We've head of our local school here. We've had representatives from health. We've had Creation Fest, all the other local churches, our food bank, both our Cornwall councillors for the town, our town council for the town, everybody just coming together. So now moving forward, there's actually all these people that are still sat around the same table going, we want to do something better for our town and for our community. How can we do that together?
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing it, and hope is going to be the vehicle that we're doing that under. Which,
fantastic.
And it was a bit of a car crash start, you know what I mean? I came to this meeting, that initial meeting, going, what we're going to call this? We're going to call it Love Your Neighbour. I said, I've done something for of an organisation called Hope in the past. And everybody was like, hope. And we kind of just took that word of hope, and actually we broke it down into an acronym for helping other people every day. And it was just a great, which linked in with our food bank as well, because that's one of their kind of strap lines.
Drew, you're obviously on a roll. Drew, we can just click you and you just go. You just roll.
I'm just speaking.
No, it's exciting though, Drew, and I think we really like that.
I like that. I've written
helping other people every day.
That's a good sermon for a good preacher.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great thing for hope.
Yeah, well, I did it in a school assembly. I nicked it from a school assembly that I did.
You nicked it from somewhere. Oh my God! So we are copying right. We are copying right. We are not copying.
We like that. We like that, don't we, Yemi?
Everything's plagiarized, taken from someone. Otherwise, it's not any good.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, the Father of Hope himself is here, Roy Crown. You should be happy because of what happened in Cornwall. Because
it's amazing. And what a place to have something like this happen. Cornwall. It's fantastic, Drew. Fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah.
Drew, what would you say? So if there's somebody watching and they're like, yeah, it could work. How would somebody start this? If they're thinking, it would be really good to be joined up. Maybe we've missed it. I guess the pandemic, we're looking like it might be over, but wouldn't it be nice? Where would you tell them to start?
I think it's just community relationships and inviting people to sit down and have the conversation and start the conversation and being willing to join in on and being able to participate in things that perhaps maybe not kind of like not got that gospel edge that perhaps we'd want in our churches, but they've got kingdom values in them, and go, actually, I can see the kingdom in this. It might not be, we might not have some of those opportunities that perhaps we'd want, but actually we can gather around this and say, actually, I can see the kingdom of God in this. There's something that we can move forward with that in, and join with other parties, and actually then bring the kingdom in with the gospel.
I think the other key thing, Drew, that you did is you took the initiative. I think so many church leaders are on the back foot and think someone else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to step into that space. I think it's really important that you were waiting for the phone call when actually God was calling you to make the phone call, and God was calling you to do it. And I think church leaders really need to take the initiative, because the need is there and they need to step out.
And it was totally out of my comfort zone, you know what I mean? I was like, Lord, how have I ended up in this place? And it's just beautiful how he uses you in those situations and anoints you for those situations, isn't it? It's his grace, it really is.
I like the fact that you use the word bridge, and that's a ministry that God has called some people to be able to pull people together and drive them forward. How do you feel now after all this time that God has been able to use you? How does that make you feel?
I think as I say, just taking on the leadership of this church just only 6 months before all this kind of kicked off. It wasn't the kind of the start I was kind of imagining, you know what I mean? I kind of planned this new trajectory and everything, and God we just got thrown in the deep end. But I just want to, I think it's faithfulness in it. As we step out, he steps in. Yeah. And just a real affirming of him calling us to this location and to this county, and actually to be here for the long term, and to see kingdom come in this place, and to see change, and to bring hope to this town and to the surrounding villages and communities as well.
Awesome. Drew, I cannot thank you enough for coming tonight.
That's a privilege, guys.
We couldn't even stop you. You know, when it's coming from your being, the way you are expressing and engaging. Anybody listening to you trying to pick up, what did he say? What did he, you were just, glowing in God's grace and call. And thanks for taking the risk. Thank you for leading other people. Thank you for helping to bring hope to your town. And then thank you for all that you do. On behalf of Hope, we just want to say thank you and God bless you for all that.
And Drew, it would be great to distribute the magazine to every home.
Absolutely. So
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, if you take the magazines, Hope magazines, that's Roy, doing his own. Just take a lot of.
I'll wait for your issue, Yemi, when you're actually in one.
Yeah. Hey, whoa, wow. There you go. There's so many people waiting for me in the magazine. Thank you very much, Drew. Have a lovely evening and God bless you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, guys. God bless.
We appreciate you. Right. Wow. Now we come to our last guest for tonight. We've talked about mental and emotional being by a psychologist. Now we've talked about hope in the city of Cornwall, from Itchen to Cornwall, but now we are coming to Essex. So in London. Is it Essex in London?
Essex is not in London, Yemi. Essex is Essex. London is London.
Our dear Rachel is from Essex. So.
And I don't think that Drew comes from a city in Cornwall, but it's all right. I think Yemi's London. I love it.
I'm too London-centric to know.
Too London and urban. I love it, Yemi. I love it. Roy will take you on a trip to Cornwall. It'll all be fine.
Maybe you do.
Yemi only knows cities. He doesn't know villages or towns. He only does cities.
You need to take him on a bit of a, educational trip, Yemi.
So it's the right time to bring our last guest for tonight. We saved the best for the last. Dr. David Shola will be talking to us about prayer. Dr. David, nice to have you tonight.
Let me do like this. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Nice to have you. And you've just been appointed as a board of trustee and to Hope. How is that? I'd like to know, how does that work? How does that make you feel? What's that about?
Well, good evening.
Obviously, what I'm saying that is you are the boss now. You are our boss. So Rachel and I, we have to behave ourselves. So
I think, thank you so much for having me tonight. It feels really, I'm excited. It feels really exciting to be part of Hope, and in particular to serve on the board. I feel it's a major privilege. I also see as an opportunity to be able to contribute in one shape or the other, the things that God has taught us in the past that can be of a blessing and help drive the vision forward. I've been very, very encouraged tonight by the stories I've heard from Kate and in particular Drew, you know, helping other people every day. That is so fantastic, you know, and that's what Hope is all about. And so to be part of the board really is an honor. And I really see greater things ahead of Hope. I feel God will enable me to contribute in any way or shape to make it move forward.
I see you already, God is already happy because you had Roy Crown spoke at your conference last week. And you know, Roy was speaking like a Pentecostal pastor. I mean, he needs to, something is wrong with him. The influence of Rachel and myself as an Anglican is not working. The cat is out of the bag. Roy, how did you get that one going?
It was a privilege to be there. I wish I could have been there in person, because obviously we're all doing it online and you're speaking to a camera, but you just have to pray and trust God. But it was a privilege to be invited, and when you hear feedback, it's always encouraging.
Oh, fantastic. So tonight, Doctor, what we talk about tonight is about prayer. We all know that you are, you know, you don't want to hang around you when you're praying. You make other people feel as if they are not a Christian, basically. But tell us a bit about your prayer life that can encourage someone watching.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's amazing how God works with us, isn't it? I gave my life to Christ. I didn't quite understand prayer in the sense of praying, but I realized that I was in a church, and you know, they had this little prayer group, my first church then, and my wife encouraged me to join them. So I went and I liked it. I just enjoyed it. So I began to get involved more and more. And then that was how I began to develop appetite for prayer. Now, the pastor then, when the leader went on holidays, the pastor of the church told me that, why don't you anchor the group while the man was away? I said, I don't know much. He said, don't worry, you know. So he recommended some books for me, you know, about 6 books, you know, and somehow God helped me to devour. I read all the books actually, and it ignited some passion in me to just pray. Suddenly I realized there's so much power in prayer, and that God is looking for people to actually pray, and that we can change things, we can affect history if we get to the place of prayer. And that was what drew me to prayer, especially when you see God answer prayers, when you see God do some things in prayers, it encourages you to want to get involved. So that was my involvement in prayer. And so I realized that, you know, I say prayer in a funny way. I don't tell people you have to wake up in the morning to pray. Mm-hmm. I don't say that. I believe that prayer should be a consistent, constant conversation with God and interaction. So what works for you must work for you. To some people, it's first in the morning. To some, it's late at night. To some, it's in the course of the day. We are not religious about it, but there must be consistency, because prayer is a relationship with God. So that's how I got involved in prayer, really.
That's interesting.
I don't know if I made some sense.
Yeah. And do you prayer walk? Because we're just kind of launching a prayer. How do you do your prayer walking?
Fantastic. I again, interesting. Again, reading the scriptures, I realized that sometimes when you prayer walk a place, you tend to stamp your authority more on the place, and you're able to change the course of events. So I like to do some prayer walking at odd hours of the day, you know, in the night or early hours of the morning. I realized when you walk around your town or your township, you tend to see more than you see in the course of the day. You tend to take in more spiritually. So that became something I developed. And I realized also when you prayer walk, there's no disturbance, isn't it, in the night? You know, you're doing your thing, or early hours of the morning, you can shout, you can talk to God. So I love it. It's one of the best things that has happened to me that helped me really to pray, because you're on your own really, and you're just looking up to heaven and talking to God. I remember times we go on the field just around where we live, and nobody's there except maybe the birds or something, and you're there, you're preaching to them and talking to God at the same time. So those are the things that shape me, So yeah. Prayer walking is very good, because you kind of stamp your authority on where you're walking, even using scriptures like, where is the foot of your soul of a fish shall step upon, you shall possess for an inheritance, things of that nature, And then remember Joshua chapter 6, though that was a specific instruction, but they kind of prayer walked around the wall, and did it about 6 days. And on the 7th day, God told them to shout. Instruction came from heaven. So that's the beauty of prayer. You get an instruction as to what to do.
You have prayed. There have been many times when you have prayed when God have answered your prayer, and then that could be an encouragement for someone. And there'll be times when you've prayed when God has been silent. And can you tell some stories, some experiences from that?
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Now, the truth is this. I think prayer really, let me put it this way, should drive us to the place of yieldedness to God. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, sometimes you go to pray asking for a few things, and God may have a different agenda entirely. So, true prayer should get us to the place where we say, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Mm-hmm. But then, let me give an example, for instance. Maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know. Last year, the Prime Minister had a few places as hospitals in England for COVID. And in particular, Excel was one of them. Excel was Nightingale Hospital. And when that thing came, we began to pray. We raised the prayer for several days on it. And we actually went around there to pray, walked around the place and prayed that, no, we have Festival of Life, a program there. It cannot be a place of death. And maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know. But, after a few weeks, the government actually shut it down because they didn't have patients, And so that is very recent, something that happened. So one can go on and talk about that,
What about when God have not answered your prayer?
Many times. Many times. I remember one particular time, we were trusting God for a building as a church. And then we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And I was very confident, I don't know if you've been there, that this is God. So we had done the negotiations. It was now time to sign. I became afraid. I was scared. Now for the next 21 odd days, I was asking God, just give me a word. It just wasn't coming, so I was afraid. Then that particular building, Yemi knows about it. You know it, Roy, in Monia Road. Yeah. Eventually, lost the building and we prayed for a whole year. I got to tell you this. Every day we gathered to pray, Lord, nothing must happen to this building. But eventually, the development took over. So,
how did it make you feel? For somebody who has prayed and God have not answered their prayer, I'm feeling very discouraged. What's your take? How do you encourage such person?
I think they should see prayer as an opportunity to relate with God, to deepen their relationship. I always want to emphasize that. Now, when you come from that position, then you understand Jesus Christ in Matthew 26, when he went to Garden of Gethsemane to pray. After a while, he said, not my will, Lord, but yours be done. So true prayer must get us to the place of yieldedness, because the God we're talking to, after all, he has a better plan for us. Jeremiah 29:11, I know the thought I think towards you, thought of peace and not of evil. So if I pray to God and he doesn't give me, in quote, what I desire, then he must have a better plan. Like Joseph would never have loved to have gone to Egypt, but Genesis chapter 50 verse 20, he said, well, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You see that? In Romans 8:28, it says, we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, who are the called according to his purpose. So if he doesn't answer, guess what? He has a better plan. He has something better for me. That's just the way it has to be. So I must be ready to yield to God. And so
I always feel guilty when I'm surrounded by someone like you who seems to pray all the time.
What about me, Roy?
I always feel I never pray enough. And often you feel guilty because we're always encouraged to pray more. You never pray enough. What do I do with that, Dr. Sola? What is that?
Very good question.
Fantastic question. I think also, sir, that I think prayer is also a gift. I feel so. Just like, I mean, when you were preaching last week, you were talking about 3 P's, and you told us about, how you became Christian and you read the Bible in 2 weeks, and then you are driven to evangelize, to win souls. Now, some people are petrified to talk to somebody about Christ. So I feel it's also a gift. I feel God calls some people to the ministry of intercession. I actually feel so. And if you look at the Bible closely, we're talking about Anna the prophetess, who was waiting for the consolation of Israel, a widow of 84 years. So God calls people to. So I feel it's a gift. I feel it's a gift. When I read the Bible, what I see is prayer points on every. That's all I see. Seriously speaking, that's whenever Yemi is laughing, So I think it's a gift. But I feel that each of us, no matter at what level we are, we know when we are in conversation with God. We must know that. So some people will pray longer. Some will stay 12 hours, 5 hours, 1 hour. But some will pray only 30 minutes, 15 minutes, but it's qualitative. And their spirit is right with God. So I think we should take consolation in that. Nobody should feel bad, and don't let anybody, bully anyone and make us feel uncomfortable. I don't think it's right.
Rachel, you have a question for Dr.
I was going to say, what's your church done for keeping prayer together or on the agenda during the pandemic? How have you done that?
Fantastic. When the pandemic started, actually, the lockdown started on my birthday last year, March 23rd. I had this big thing planned and I had to cancel it. Now, so what we did was, immediately started, and we felt God wanted us to pray. So we started prayers every evening and every morning. And that went on till the restrictions were taken over every day. So we pray in the evening, we pray in the morning, of course, on Zoom.
Yes.
That was it. So this platform is fantastic for praying, and then we began to restream it so that people can join all over the world and to pray. So we did that. So and when we stopped that, we still pray every day up to now, in the morning, just within our group and for as many as want to join. So the Zoom platform has encouraged us to pray and to come together, and we have used it so powerfully.
And don't you pray at 6 o'clock in the morning still?
Yes. We
every day since your birthday.
6 o'clock, yeah.
And you do birthdays. I've been to a few of my black brothers' birthdays, and you do birthdays in a big way.
We try to. Normally on my birthdays,
I know what he's referring to.
I know. On my birthdays, I try to hold a prayer meeting. I mean, that's what I do. My birthday way to celebrate is intercession for the city.
Yeah.
So that's always. So
that's a passion, really. Now we've got a few minutes left, but we want to talk about the prayer hat. There is this new thing coming to town. If you're listening to me, you should be excited, super excited, because now you're about to become a prayer warrior like Dr. Sola. So there's this app. Roy, tell us about this app. What's this about?
This is an amazing gift and a great tool, because what this app can do is it will cover England, Scotland and Wales. Actually, it will cover the world. It has every street within it, and you can have an area that you're going to cover with every one of those houses, with every one of those homes. You could do it joint churches in a city or a town and cover the whole area, and then see how you're covering the whole of England, so that every space could be covered. And what you will then do is it gives you an icon to say, I'm going to pray for this street. You click on it, it will give you an icon. Once you pray for that street, you touch it, the icon will change to say that that street has been covered in prayer. Then you can move on and you can actually start to care for that street, do outreach in that street. It's got a whole plan to enable you to reach that community for Christ. We're piloting it at the moment amongst some prayer ministries and teams, but by the end of March, it can go absolutely everywhere. You as a church will send you the link to the app. You can cover your parish, your community, mobilize your whole church to cover their street, and it will just go right across the nation, and we'll see a massive impact. We're partnering with other ministries. So there's been neighborhood prayer, there's been other ministries that we've heard about, but this is just a tool to enable us to coordinate together a national prayer ministry.
That's what the technologies have afforded us. Now there's no excuse. We can pray for every street in United Kingdom in one day, even in 1 hour. So a church can decide to cover 5-kilometer radius of where the church is, and everybody takes a street, and it shows on the app that someone is praying for that. That's an amazing thing. The devil doesn't know what's coming, because this country is up for revival, and revival never starts without people praying. I am so excited for what God is going to do. Dr. Sola, we are so grateful for having you, our esteemed director. We are so grateful to have you. What? As we close, one thing people don't know is that you study in Russia. Is that right?
I did, actually.
Yeah, and you speak because you did your medicine in Russia. So you're not just a doctor of philosophy, you are actually a medical doctor.
Medical doctor.
Yeah, and then you speak Russian language very well.
I do.
So why don't you speak Russian language to close us for today?
Oh, wow.
To our people and bye-bye to them.
I hope you understand that. No,
we understand the spirit.
Дорогие друзья, спасибо вам, что я с вами был сегодня. Всего доброго, да благословит вам Боже. Во имя Иисуса. Аминь.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. What a way to end tonight. Until we see you again next week, God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. It's been great to have these wonderful people with us. Bye for now.